Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 341. I am so excited for today's guest. We have back on the show Kristen Bowen. She has been one of my favorite guests, and according to all you guys, the Learn True Health listeners, Kristen's been one of your favorite guests as well. She was on the show back in episode 294. She's the creator of my favorite magnesium soak, where your body absorbs grams and grams of magnesium through her wonderful soak. Her website is livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. Kristen, welcome back to the show.
Ashley, it feels like Christmas time. I'm really excited to be with you and your listeners.
Absolutely.
So excited. Literally feels like Christmas time to me. I woke up this morning really early and was like, oh, today's the day.
Finally.
Yeah, finally we connected our schedules.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Well, since you were on the show, I posted in our Learn True Health Facebook group asking the listeners to pose their questions and also share their testimonials, their experience of using your magnesium soak. And there's 175 comments.
Are you serious?
From the listeners.
Oh, I'm going to go in and read them.
Yes, it's a very active thread. We have amazing testimonials. What I shared in episode 294, for those who haven't listened to it, I shared that I discovered you because a friend of mine heard that you were coming to Seattle to give a health lecture. And
downtown
Seattle, which no one ever goes to because of the
I will
the
never
traffic.
again. I'm a fast learner.
And we carpooled, our friend, and came with us, and we carpooled and we did a magnesium foot soak with you while you taught the class. And we connected, and I said, you have to come on my show and share this information. It was amazing because by the end of the foot soak, I felt drugged. The amount of magnesium my body absorbed, I felt amazing. So I bought a few jugs and I brought them home. And my husband and I have been having problems getting our son to sleep since he was born. He's been one of those kids that just never wants to sleep. He never wants to go down for a nap. He always wants to be the life of the party. And we just could not get him to sleep. It took us between 1 and 2 hours every night to get him down to sleep. We would have to read him 5 books. We'd have to do a hot bath. There was a whole routine, and he'd fight us. We have to sing to him. We have to rock him. And so finally we discovered your magnesium soak and we put it in his bath. And the first night we did that, he turned to me and said, I'm tired. Can we go to bed now? And I almost hit the floor. I couldn't believe it. And since then he's been such a good sleeper. He loves reading, but he can't even stay awake for 5 books. He can barely stay awake for 2 now. And then he asks to go to bed, which is such a huge difference from before. And the only thing we changed was adding your magnesium soak.
My little grandson is the same way. I will get the sweetest little FaceTime calls from him, and he'll say, Grandma, I am out. Because he can even feel and experience the difference that he's not sleeping as well. And he gets leg cramps. He gets growing pains. And growing pains are a lack of magnesium. And so I love thinking about the difference that magnesium is making in families. Because think about it, Ashley, that gave you and your husband more time to connect and be with each other because that bedtime routine is shorter. And so the trickle-down effect is a stronger family unit. Yay!
Yay! Well, absolutely. And also we're not stressed out spending 2 hours trying to get our son to sleep.
Right.
Well, my son takes a week, 1 to 2 times a week, he does his magnesium soak bath because we did the 30-day challenge back in the summertime when we first got introduced to your product, and it was wonderful. And now we do it about once or twice a week just as maintenance, but I always feel a difference. And so my husband and I will sit beside each other on the couch and do our little foot soak in the evenings after our son's gone to sleep. So there's more family time there. But there's whole families that get together and around the TV or get together in the living room and they all do their foot soak at the same time. So it can be a lot of fun. But we have some amazing testimonials from other people who say that their children and for listeners who want to check out these stories of success, these testimonials, they can go into the Facebook group and they'll see that very lengthy post in there where the 175 comments are. But parents are sharing that their children are having better scores in school. They're having less aches and pains, like you said, the growing pains. They are having significantly less ADHD. They're able to concentrate more in school. Anxiety is diminishing, depression is diminishing. People are sleeping through the night for the first time in years. So just amazing story after story of success, of how much of an impact your product has. Now, I've been taking magnesium for years as a supplement, and I always felt like I could never get enough. And it wasn't until I tried your magnesium foot soak that it made a world of difference. So definitely encourage listeners to check out episode 294 to listen, to learn about Kristen's story, because your story, I mean, just to give the listeners who haven't heard your story, the snapshot, you were 70 pounds with 30 seizures a day in a wheelchair.
It losing my hair. It was, and I had 6 kids at home that needed a mom. I wanted to be a mom to them. The time that I lost with that health crash was just, I still see effects in my kids from that time that I was just not available to them.
And because of discovering magnesium and the power of soaking in very concentrated, high quality magnesium, it was one of the key elements that allowed you to get your health back. So we're not going to dive into your story today because listeners can go back and check out episode 294. But what I do want to say right off the bat is that I am so excited that you are giving a special for the next 2 weeks to our listeners. That is
I'm really
so
excited.
generous. It is so generous of you. So you normally give 10% off to our listeners when they use the coupon code LTH on your website, livingthegoodlifenaturally.com.
Could we have picked a longer name? Livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. Thank you for saying that great big long name.
It sticks. It definitely is a memorable. It might be long, but it's memorable, right? And so you give a great 10% discount for your magnesium soak when listeners use the coupon code LTH as in Learn True Health. What you're
But
doing,
we're making it better.
you're making it even better, which I'm so thankful. And you didn't have to do this. This is just out of the kindness of your heart. Listeners, just so that you know, Kristen's company is family run. It's just her and her beautiful family. And I got to meet her daughter and her husband, and your whole family gets together and runs this company. And it's all, you come from a place, a heartfelt place of your mission of helping people, because
Very much so.
you yourself were so sick, and so you're helping other especially women who have cortisol issues and autoimmune issues and hormone imbalance. So you love helping us to gain our health back. Well, for the next 2 weeks, Kristen is giving us a special. If you buy a jug of her magnesium soak, of course, you're going to get the 10% discount using coupon code LTH. She's including...
We need a drum roll.
Okay, drum roll.
Drum roll.
She's including a free jar of her magnesium muscle cream. And how much is that jar normally?
$36. And the reason that the muscle cream is so amazing is we were able to source a permaculture olive oil. And that permaculture olive oil is incredible on your skin. It is just beautiful. And then you add the cocoa butter that comes from our cooperative in Uganda. And then you add that beautiful magnesium, and you have a trifecta to help muscles repair after a workout. And a little bit of menthol, not too much. I think a lot of products are over mentholated, and I don't agree with that. So just a touch of menthol, and it's just an incredible experience and one of our best-selling products.
Really? So that is great for after workouts, but it's also people use it as a pain cream as well. So can they just rub it on sore muscles or rub it on areas of pain? What are the most common ways people use your magnesium cream?
Typically for pain relief and after workout.
Got it.
that post workout are the two places that we see people using it the most. And my daughter, my oldest daughter that you met there in Seattle, is actually the manager at the warehouse. And it was her idea. She came to me and said, Mom, I love interacting with the Learn True Health audience. And you're doing another podcast. Let's do something really special for them. And so she has been prepping that muscle cream for your listeners, Ashley. And we have 1,500 sitting on the shelf ready to go out the door.
That's so cool. So it's 1 jar per order.
Yes.
And I love that you're giving this great gift to the listeners. Last time when we talked about your cream, you had mentioned that it is a great way to deliver locally, some
Yes.
magnesium locally, but it is not a replacement for magnesium supplementation. Like to soak in the magnesium with the magnesium soak, you're absorbing grams systemically through your whole body, whereas the cream, you can't get to full cell saturation with the cream, but people do see results, and it's more localized results.
It's so important for people to align expectations with what the product can do. And the muscle cream, as much as I love it, it cannot get you to cell saturation. It does not replace soaking, but it's a beautiful spot treatment.
Excellent. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for offering that. Now, you have a list of questions that listeners submitted to your customer service, and you went through them all, and you looked and you saw that there was a few common themes about the curiosity of our listeners. So I know that we have a lot of things to cover today because you want to answer all those questions. What would you like to discuss first? We want to discuss boron. We want to talk about
Oh,
cortisol, polysaccharides, and I know you
mm.
want to teach us how to maximize the magnesium within our body so that we don't burn through it quickly, so we actually hold on to the magnesium that we do have. Listeners, just know that in episode 294, we did discuss how to reach full cell saturation with magnesium, so and how to tell if you are magnesium deficient and how to get to a place where you actually have enough magnesium in your body. And so that's a really good episode to listen to understand more of the foundations around magnesium. But once you get to full cell saturation, how do you stay there? So what do you want to discuss first?
Oh, Ashley. Okay. One of my favorite things about your podcast is you allow me to go deep. So let's start with, because some of the questions that came in definitely were themed along, okay, I did the 30-day challenge. Now what do I do and how do I hold on to it? And one of my goals, you hit on something that is very important to me, and that is we are a very heart led business. And one of my goals, when I see someone coming in and they're getting magnesium a week later, I want to ask them, now, are you buying that for someone else or are you using that much? Because if they're having to use it all of the time, every single day, all of the time, we have a crack in the foundation. And I do not chase symptoms. I did not rebuild my health by chasing symptoms. I built a strong foundation. And so, what I'd like to do, if you're okay with Ashley, is talk about adding boron and how that helps you hold on to that magnesium. Think of it like a booster pack for the magnesium. Would that be an okay place to start?
Yes, let's do
Okay.
that.
So, first of all, my husband and I love road trips. We love to just get in the car and go find somewhere and explore. And one of his degrees is in American folklore. And so we call him the keeper of odd knowledge. Like you can be somewhere and he has some piece of history or a story that goes along with it. And it just makes it really fun. Well, we do the trip. My warehouse and retail shop is in Utah, but my home is in Morro Bay, California. And so we do that trip often between Utah and California. Sometimes we fly, sometimes we drive, just depending on our needs. And you go through that Mojave Desert. And I've always been fascinated because you'll hit, um, as you drive through the Mojave Desert, you'll see boron. And there's a museum there. And I've always wanted to stop at that museum, and we just have never done it. And so, one of our road trips, I said to him, okay, we will be going through the Mojave Desert. Please, can we stop in the town of Boron? I've heard that there's a museum there, and I really want to go check it out. And he looked at me and he said, a boron museum? I said, come on, let's do it. So he was game and we went. And I have to tell you, I wish right now we were on video, because for this podcast, I wore my boron t shirt that I purchased at the Boron Museum. So I have the element of boron on my body right now. But that mine, I learned so many things about boron. First of all, boron helps you hold magnesium in your cells. And so if you are someone you're experiencing the benefit of magnesium, but you're having to soak all of the time, that's not my goal. My goal is to get out there and love on people and live a big life, not to be managing my health 24/7. And so if you're having to soak a lot to keep the benefits that you're experiencing up, it could be that you have a boron deficiency. And boron, think of it like a salt that comes from, a mineral that comes from the earth, like salt does. And when we buy it, though, when I buy it, and I realize this is a little out of the box, but I think your listeners are game for that, Ashley.
Absolutely.
I actually go to the laundry detergent
Mm-hmm.
and I buy the 20 Mule Team. Now, it says on there, do not ingest, do not ingest. I have stood in that mine in the Mojave Desert, and they show you in the mine how it comes out, and you watch it, and some of it goes to supplements and some of it goes to laundry detergent. It's the same thing.
Didn't you ask the guy? You said, "What's the guide?" You said, "What's the
Yes.
difference between you see this boron in a cart, just came out of the mine. What's the difference between the boron that goes into the laundry detergent and the boron that goes in the supplements?" And he looks at you and says, "What do you mean? There's no difference between the two of them."
The price markup
Oh
is the
yeah,
difference.
sure,
The price markup.
right.
So, getting that boron in your body to help you hold on to that magnesium. But the boron does even more than that. And our soils are becoming deficient in boron. In fact, the further that you live from the ocean, the less boron is in your soil.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so important to get that boron, because the boron actually gives the cell wall flexibility.
Mm.
It gives it flexibility, and the cell wall is like the brain. It's what communicates the information in your body. And if you don't have enough boron, you are literally stopping the communication happening at the cellular level. So it's so important. The other thing that boron does is, I think it's really important. I have autoimmune things, and it's really important for me to know my numbers when it comes to C-reactive protein. That's the inflammation marker in your body. Boron will help bring those numbers down and help regulate them. It helps balance that inflammation that's happening in your body. And that inflammation is attached to your pain levels. So people, especially people who manage chronic pain, that boron can play a role in managing that pain. It also helps your pancreas balance blood sugars. Ashley, have you looked at the projection of type 2 diabetes that's going to happen in our country in the next 20 years?
It's amazing. It's shocking. It's shocking that I know that right now the current statistic is 1 in 3 people are diabetic or pre-diabetic.
And the scary thing is, our children, they're going to be diagnosed before the age of 18. So the numbers are just getting astronomical. And that type 2 diabetes walks you away from your potential. It walks you away from your health. And so boron plays such a beautiful role along with the magnesium in helping your body to manage that blood sugar. It also in different areas of the world where there's naturally occurring boron, their cancers are lower
Mm-hmm.
because of the boron. So now I'm not saying that boron's going to cure all cancer. That would be inappropriate for me to say. It does play a role in your body and how it's regulating health. And it's been proven in studies that when you've got sufficient boron, your cancer risk is decreased. And it also, for me, bone health. Have you ever had issues with bone health? Has that been a part of your experience?
Not my personal experience, but I have heard from this very old school naturopath who trained me, who I spent
Mhm.
many years learning from. He uh, helps to reverse. He has a whole program for completely reversing arthritis to a point where someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s who has arthritis can in 6 months to a year no longer have arthritis. And one of the key components is boron.
Oh,
He says that you can't
it's
regrow
crucial.
bone, you can't regrow healthy joints and healthy bone and maintain healthy bone without boron.
My bone density scan was so I had osteoporosis.
Mm.
And when they took my last scan, and I always have my first scan with me, I hold those records. I'm the CEO of my health. And so I take those with me. They did not believe me that that was the same bone scan because my bone density is strong. I'm a grandmother of 8, and my bones do not even look like the age that I am. And so boron works through the parathyroids and helps remineralize those bones. And so getting that boron in is so important. But here's where the crack in the foundation happens. So we find out about how great boron is to hold that magnesium. And we know that the magnesium is the foundation of everything working. We've got to get that magnesium level up. So we add the boron. And a lot of women will start to have hormone problems when they add the boron. And I was like, oh, what is happening? What is happening here? Because they need the boron, but when they add it, they start getting hot flashes or their sex drive drops. Now, some people, their sex drive will increase with the boron, but what is happening for these women who are not able to take the boron to help with their arthritis pain or to help balance their blood sugars or to help hold on to the magnesium at the cellular level? And guess what the missing component is, Ashley? It's
What?
cortisol, it's stress.
Oh.
And so, as women, we have to, I call it a magnesium mindset. We have to recognize how powerful we are. And we can produce our own addiction because when we produce that excess of cortisol, because we need some cortisol, when we produce that excess of cortisol, it is giving us a short term fix. It gives us a little bit of energy and it clears our frontal lobe thinking so that we can think better for a little bit. But the long term consequences are that that cortisol is taking the building blocks that our body uses to turn it into progesterone and estrogen. And so what we need to do is look at that. It's almost, I view it like a triangle. Look at the magnesium, look at the cortisol levels, and look at the boron. And if we've got some cortisol issues, we need to be a little bit slower adding the boron until we've soaked in magnesium long enough. So, a lot of times people will want to start with boron before the magnesium. And it's like, no, 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 no. Let's start with the magnesium because that will start to help you get on top of the cortisol issues. So, when you do add that boron, you're not having issues with it because you're robbing and 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 your body's not turning it into the right things. And so that cortisol steal is happening, and we don't want that happening. And so it's so important that we start with the magnesium, we soak in that for a while, do that 30-day challenge, and then we slowly add that boron and focus on our magnesium mindset. And so this is where I thought we could go into patterns, Ashley.
Absolutely. I definitely have questions about
Oh,
the
okay.
so hold there. We're going to go into
Okay.
patterns, but first I need to get the practical application. So
Oh, yes.
um now I've had the pleasure of seeing you live in person, and I remember the answer that we can add boron to our magnesium, to our bath, let's say, or to our foot soak, or to our bath as we're soaking in the magnesium. But because of the structure of boron, it doesn't absorb highly into the skin. Like magnesium absorbs really well through the skin into our lymph system and into our bloodstream, but boron is a little bit too big to get through our pores. Is that do you find that we absorb some boron when soaking with it, or should we just forego putting it in the bath and only taking it as a supplement?
You can put some in the water, and your body will absorb very trace amounts. But the trace amounts that I absorb from the boron in the water is not enough for my rheumatoid arthritis. Now, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in my 20s. I don't consider myself having it anymore because I don't experience the symptoms. If I walk away from my magnesium and my boron orally, then my symptoms start to come back. And so the trace amounts are good in the water, but not enough for what we're needing because our foods are starting to become deficient in that actual boron.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking it orally is crucial. The way that I do it is I get a rounded teaspoon of the 20 mule team. I put it in a quart of filtered water, and then I dissolve it. You can add a little bit of warm water to help it dissolve faster, or you can just shake it a little bit, takes a couple of minutes, and that makes your concentrate. And then 1 teaspoon of that concentrate is approximately 3 milligrams. And for me, I take about 18 to 24 milligrams a day, but it will be different for you. And that's the one thing that people have to really become the CEO of their own body, because there's not a set amount. I can't say, oh, you will need this much because you're this old and have thyroid issues. So therefore you need this much. It's something that each person has to determine how they feel and how much boron their body needs. And it also determines on your cortisol levels. Someone who is producing a lot of excess cortisol. So, for example, this move that we just did last week, my cortisol levels went up a little bit. Everything was in boxes. I couldn't find what I needed. And it was a little stressful for me. And so my soaking in magnesium went up and my boron went up to adjust for what was happening in my life.
So for those who are not comfortable taking 20 mule team, which is a laundry, it's called a laundry detergent, but the only ingredient in it is the mineral boron. You can buy it as a supplement should you
Yes, as an
wish to
ionic
take it.
solution.
Okay, so the best way to if you were to spend the extra money to buy it as a
Mhm.
supplement, because that's how you the comfort level of the
Right.
individual, um I mean, this is, this is all just information. You're not telling people to ingest laundry detergent. You're not telling anyone to do this. This is just,
No.
you're sharing what you do. And
Yes.
this is just information, interesting information for people to think about and to learn from. So for the
Yes.
supplement, the ionic boron, how many milligrams a day or micrograms is a good general dose?
If they're doing an ionic solution, it will depend on which brand they buy. If you're doing how I do it and making your own solution, I like to go, I call it low and slow. Go low and slow and see how your body reacts to it, because Boron is amazing at helping to balance your body with candida and parasites. And so sometimes when a person takes a whole bunch of it, they'll have some die-off reaction. And so I like to see people start with 1 teaspoon of that concentrate and just take that for a couple of weeks and see how you do.
Now the 20 mule team, it says it's called borax. That's the borax is boron?
It's mined from the earth and it's boron. And then when they put it in the box, the company Rio Tinto, who owns that mine, the 20 mule team borax.
Got it. Okay. It's just, I think it's so funny. It's the exact same supplement and they just charge more because they put it in a capsule.
And they add fillers in the capsule to encapsulate
Right.
it. So it's not even it's not even as pure as when you get it in the laundry detergent. And I realize for some people that are hearing this for the first time, they're like, what is this woman talking about? And so all I'm asking for your listeners to do is just listen and determine what's best for me.
Mm-hmm.
What am I wanting for my body? Do I want to hold on to my magnesium? Because you can also get boron from foods. You can get boron from raisins. You can get boron from almonds. You can get boron from dried apricots. And one of my favorite ways to get boron is from the chia seeds. Now, when you take chia seeds, if you will take the time to gel them, because foods are crucial and their proper form is just as important. And chia seeds in their proper form, when they've been gelled, it creates a polysaccharide. And that polysaccharide in the chia seed helps to mop up excess cortisol in your body. Yeah,
Ooh.
isn't that cool? The power of food.
That's
The
very
power of
cool.
food is breathtaking to me.
Absolutely. No, I know I've gotten to know a lot of the listeners, and I know a handful of them that's like they're already on their way to the grocery store to buy 20 mule borax right now because
Oh,
they're just like they're ready to do it. So just to reiterate, so you said 1 quart, which is just about 1 liter for those who are not in the
yes.
United States. It's 4 cups or 32 ounces. And so you take that much water, and then how much of the borax did you put in
A
it?
rounded teaspoon.
Around a teaspoon,
Mhm.
and you shake it up and let it dissolve. And then how much do you take each day?
I take 1 teaspoon equals 3 milligrams approximately. And so I take anywhere from 18 to 24 milligrams a day. But Ashley, I know your listeners are all over the world because after that first podcast, we had to actually hire someone just to take all the telephone calls from your listeners all over the world that wanted to know why we didn't ship to Japan and Australia and Germany. And we're this little
And
family
Canada.
company going, oh my gosh, what do we do? So I want to be really clear, especially because we had numerous calls coming in from Australia also. And in Australia, the 20 Mule team has started to add fragrance. And so
Mm,
you want to make sure if you choose, remember, each of us are our CEO. If you choose to go this pathway to add the boron, you need to make sure that it is without fragrance.
right.
And there are some places in the world, I forgot who I was talking to, Miss Ashley James. Some places in the world where Ashley's voice reaches, the 20 Mule Team Borax has a fragrance added. And if it does, that's not appropriate to ingest.
Yes, absolutely. You want to make sure it's pure.
Yes,
Um, but
no
but
fragrances.
if someone's not comfortable doing it the way you do it, then they can just buy a supplement, make
Right,
sure it's
right.
ionic, and start off low dosing like you said,
Yes.
and then slowly ramp up. But the best thing to do is do the 30-day challenge where you get to full cell saturation of magnesium before you add the boron. Otherwise, you're going to see those imbalances. Plus, you want to you make sure that you reduce your cortisol, you reduce your stress so that everything is coming into balance at the same time. You're not bringing in a nutrient you're deficient in that throws three other things out of whack, basically.
Right. And the other great thing about when people are doing that 30-day challenge, if they will add some gelled chia seed, they're not only adding a small amount of boron, so keeping it nice and low and slow, but they're also adding a food source of B vitamins, Ashley. And B vitamins are crucial also at helping to hold magnesium in the cell, because
Mm.
I want to do everything I can to support my body staying at cell saturation. Boron, B vitamins are crucial at doing that.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Now you touched on that subject, so I'm gonna have to ask. Um, we do have a lot of listeners who have been chomping at the bit internationally to get a hold of your products. How close are you, do you think, to having international shipping?
We are very close to, we decided as a family, we do have on our team, we have some employees. We don't call them employees, they're team. They have helped us to get to where we're at. And so, team, as we got together and talked about, okay, people, we've got calls after Ashley's podcast coming in from all over the world, literally. And we realized our customer service is so important to us that we want to make sure that we grow slowly so that we can continue as a family owned company to give the level of customer service that we always have. And I have to tell you, we've had a few cracks in that with the growth of the company. And so the first area that we are focused on is Canada. We've gotten the most requests from Canada, and we are very close to having it set up. There was a little bit of issue with the liquid and the weight, and so we have I don't even want to put a time frame on it because I don't want to disappoint anyone, and there are a few things out of my control that I have to wait for the post office to follow through on. But we are very close to having it to Canada and being able to ship it to Canada, and then we'll get that system down so it's really fluid, and then we'll determine, okay, where's the next place that we're going to ship it to, and then that way we can maintain that level of customer service that we've always had and that is so important to us as a family.
Very cool. Now, I think some people would be thinking, why can't you just make this into a powder so it weighs less? I mean, there are other companies out there that have magnesium flakes that you put in the
Right.
water and they dissolve. What's the difference between those companies and the magnesium soak that you offer?
So, Ashley, I am asked, I think it would be really fair to say every single day, please sell the flakes. They're easier. I can travel with them, and I get it. People want easy. And I want easy too. I want, I don't want to make things harder than what they need to be. Purity and the quality of the product and its ability to get me to cell saturation is crucial. And the flakes do not meet my standard. And I would never sell anything to you that I'm not willing to use myself. And so for me, until a different process is determined, created to make those flakes in a way that doesn't compromise them, then absolutely I'll be all over that. But until then, it doesn't matter which company, because it's the process that I take issue with. And so it's something that I'm just not. I've looked into it and we've done testing on it, and it's not something that I'm willing to do to my own body. And so I would never carry it.
Got it. So you're saying that other companies out there that sell the flakes, their purity is not up there?
Going through that process, you lose the purity. Even if you started with a great magnesium, to go through the chemical process to turn it into a flake, the product is compromised. And that's where I take issue. I'm not willing to do that.
Got it. Yeah. We had a listener in Canada go out to the store after hearing your show, and she bought what was available locally as a
Right.
concentrated liquid. I think it was a liquid magnesium she bought, thinking that, I mean, innocently, as we all would,
Yeah.
thinking every magnesium soaks the same, right? It's just freaking magnesium in a bottle.
Right.
Like, why is there such a big difference between yours and the one that's sold down the street? And she got home and she soaked, and then she started communicating in the Facebook group saying, I don't notice anything. I don't feel any different. I'm not noticing anything. And she did it for a few days. And we said you share pictures of the product with us, and it turned out there was almost no magnesium, and it was like a $60 or $70 bottle. There's almost no magnesium in this thing, and it's sold, at the health food store locally. And we said, can you get your money back? Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing that there's a plethora of magnesiums out there, especially oral supplements, but our body cannot absorb enough magnesium in a supplement because the supplements will cause diarrhea before you ever get to cell saturation. And so skin is the best way to absorb it, since we're not getting it from our food, and that's a whole other conversation. But for the last 150 years, they changed the farming practices so that it's been starving minerals out of the soil. We haven't remineralized our soil. We don't add ashes like we used to, or to remineralize the soil. And now with all of the chemicals that they use on the lands, they're all chelators. So they've been removing minerals for years from the soil. So we're not really getting boron or magnesium or calcium. We're not getting enough of these minerals from our food. And then we try to take a supplement of magnesium, and that it doesn't quite get us there. And you've said yourself, we can get a blood test for, I think it's like between $40 and $60, the RBC magnesium blood test, to show whether we are in healthy ranges or unhealthy magnesium ranges. But there's a bunch of magnesium soaks out there, and it's really buyer beware. There's a lot of them, like you've said, with heavy metals. You do extensive testing for purity.
Ashley, I was so sick for so long and I
Mm.
chased so many products. Literally, our family lost everything, but they would come up with money to buy this thing they'd heard about that could maybe help me to get better. When you get in that point of desperation, you're not making the best choices. And so many of them were detrimental because of heavy metal toxicity. There's magnesiums that's actually produced in a lab. So the magnesium that we have is from the Zextine C, and it's a sea brine. And so it has other cofactors along with it that help the body to uptake it. And when you create magnesium chloride in a lab, you don't get that. And so it doesn't move your magnesium red blood cell number. It's so important for people to understand that so that they can make the best decision for them.
I love it. And then every single batch that you have shipped to you from the Zextine C is tested for
Yes.
purity, so there's no heavy metals. I mean, the list goes on and on.
I've been burned too many
Mm.
times, and I had a lot of heavy metals. And again, I don't want to get into my health story, but because of the heavy metal issue and the reaction that I had to titanium, I'm super sensitive to products that had heavy metals. And so many times, I would ask a company, well, do you have it tested? And they'd send me a testing sheet, and it would be from 7 years previous. Well, is it the same batch? I mean, there's a big difference. And so that's why we take the philosophy that if it's in our shop, if it's on my website, it's been independently tested by me, because I want to have that feeling of absolute confidence when I put that product in your hand, that this is the best that there is. This is the best that the world has to offer.
That is so cool. Awesome. Okay. So you explained how to take boron and the importance of boron, building healthy bones, maintaining healthy hormone levels, and also helping to not burn through your magnesium. But there's many other reasons, and people can Google it and learn more about boron. It helps with brain
Wow,
function.
it does. Immune. It's just, think of it though, at the cell, it keeps the walls of the cell flexible so that the communication at the cellular level can happen. That's power. It's so many times we want to focus on the big things. And I've found that when we go to those really small things, that's when the biggest change happens. And to be able to influence the communication of your cells with the proper amounts of magnesium and boron, that's power. That is just power that you have to create better health.
Right. And think about it, like if the cell wall is very healthy, then the garbage, the toxins can easily get out and the
Yes.
nutrients can easily get in. So that makes so much sense. It's helping the cell just to maintain its health, each individual cell. So that is a really big deal. That and the aspect of keeping healthy blood sugar. So many reasons why we should make sure that we get boron on a regular basis. You briefly touched on polysaccharides and the chia seeds. Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss about polysaccharides?
Yeah, I do want to make sure. So, for example, if one of your listeners is listening right now and they have polycystic ovarian syndrome, please don't take boron because it's going to aggravate that problem. We've got to do more to support cortisol issues and better magnesium levels. And so boron is not appropriate for someone to add if they have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And that's where chia comes into play because that chia, when it's properly soaked, will help mop up that excess cortisol in people with polycystic ovarian. That goes hand in hand, that excess cortisol, and that the polysaccharides can help so that when your body is ready to handle that boron, it's not going to throw you into converting testosterone at a faster pace. So, to understand that the polysaccharides are really helping to mop up that excess cortisol, I think is a powerful connection.
Very cool. Are there any other conditions where someone would want to hold off on adding boron? Um, or just if someone knows that they have high cortisol levels or under high stress, is that when they want to first handle lowering stress levels before they add boron?
Yes, because if you know that you've got incredible amounts of stress going on in your life, let's get that magnesium in and let's start with that chia. It's going to give you some trace amounts of boron, not enough to start reducing arthritis symptoms, but it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. And let's really focus on that magnesium mindset and reducing cortisol, that extreme cortisol level before we add that boron in because we don't want to throw your hormones at a deeper level of imbalance, and adding the boron before you've gotten on top of the cortisol issues can absolutely do that. It can make them worse, and we want to make them better. We want you waking up feeling amazing, ready to go out and do whatever you've dreamed of in your mind and your heart to do for that day. And if you're adding boron with that excess cortisol, it's just not going to happen.
Right. Now, this reminds me that some of the listeners, only a handful of them, had an experience, and now hundreds and hundreds of listeners have been doing your foot soaks. So you've got a lot of really cool feedback. But out of the hundreds of listeners that have been doing it and have been communicating with me about it, a handful of them said that within minutes of doing their foot soak, they had to run to the bathroom, and they had, I wouldn't say diarrhea, they just had very urgent loose stool. Not complaining of diarrhea, it's not that far, but it was definitely urgent and it was definitely loose. And that normally happens when you take it orally. When you take too much orally, why would someone have that experience? And I think it has something to do with cortisol, but why would someone have that experience when they first soak in magnesium?
So the only connection that I've been able to find, Ashley, is candida issues.
Oh,
And how I found that is working with people and seeing it happen with those people. And every time we have that cortisol spike, it actually strengthens the biofilm on candida. The candida gets this biofilm on it, and the stronger that biofilm is, the harder it is to break the candida down. Well, magnesium's really good at it. And so if they've had excess cortisol and a candida issue, the magnesium breaks down the biofilm. It has to leave the body somehow. And so that's the only connection that I've been able to put together when people have that experience. And so far, it's everyone that I've interacted with that has fit. They've had the candida, they've had the excess cortisol and the biofilm. And as they start adding the chia seeds and adding some polysaccharides and aloe vera, if that's appropriate, not if they have a latex allergy, because we know that aloe vera has naturally occurring latex. But as we get those good polysaccharides in and really start building, that definitely slows down.
Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating. So someone soaking in your magnesium foot soak, like you can soak in a bath or you can soak in a foot bath, like a foot basin. So someone's soaking and the magnesium's getting into their lymph system, which is eventually, getting back into their circulatory system. How is it though that that magnesium is going to affect the biofilm in the gut?
As our body uptakes that, I wish I knew the exact transport of how it's happening. I can't tell you that. I know that when that urgency in their bowels, the two connecting pieces that people always have, they
Hmm.
know that they have an overgrowth of candida, and they know that they have excess cortisol, which we know produces biofilm, and we know that magnesium breaks down biofilm. So that's the only connections that I've been able
Got
to
it.
make, to put that together in what's happening. And then as we build them, that always goes away and the candida goes away.
That's really cool.
And so just as we start making those connections, that's one that has made sense with the clients that I've interacted with.
And also in our biofilm, when it's an unhealthy biofilm that's protecting candida, which is like a parasite, other parasites can live and
Oh,
thrive in that biofilm. So by soaking in magnesium, we're creating an inhospitable environment for parasites to live in our gut anymore.
Ashley, it's so, oh, parasite. And, it's parasites are not I have a love-hate talking about parasites. I think we need to talk about them. But, you start talking about parasites, and if you're in a group of people, a lot of them will take a step away, like, oh, parasites. It's not, the most uplifting conversation. But by not talking about them, we're allowing people not to have that information that they so desperately need to get rid of parasites. When I started expelling parasites, it made my health so much easier. I was healthy, but it was a high maintenance healthy, Ashley. It
Mm.
took so much of my time to do all the things that I needed to do to be healthy. And when I started releasing those parasites, my health is now low maintenance. Instead of that's my only focus during the day, it's a portion of my focus during the day. It will always be, but the majority of my day is spent loving on people and doing those things that are in my heart.
Okay, now every listener is interested in how to achieve low maintenance health. So back up a little bit and tell us, what did you do to expel the parasites?
Oh, Ashley. So, oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, here we go. We're going on an
We're going on
Ashley.
it. We're on its roller coaster. It's going
Here we
tick,
go.
tick, 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 tick. We're on this
So,
roller coaster. It's going up tick, 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 tick. We're about to go down into
hold
the
hold
parasite roller coaster. Okay, let's do it. All right.
on. Okay, so we you have to take into account lifestyle that I had as a young girl, abuse, and so cortisol levels were high. So my body was set up as a child that I had high cortisol. Well, then I married that beautiful hunk of a man of mine who is the most loving, kind, gracious man. But my body still reacted. Like if he would come up from behind and reach over to kiss me on my neck, I would still do this. In fact, my kids will
Mm.
say, Mom, you can't tell if you're excited about a new pair of shoes or if someone's been murdered in the street and there's blood everywhere. Your reaction is the same. My body got wired as a little girl to that overreaction. And so this is part of that magnesium mindset, Ashley. We have to take our power back. And by claiming our power and being open to how powerful we are as women, we literally set the tone for digestion at the table. It is set by the female who sits at the table. If she comes to the table stressed out, her family has shut down their vagus nerve and their cortisol has spiked. That's how powerful we are.
Mm.
Our mood affects digestion at the table. And so, to create that low maintenance help, we have to take into account and be willing to open our arms up wide and claim how powerful we are. And that was really scary for me to do. I wasn't used to feeling powerful. I was used to being the victim. And so it was a real mindset shift in helping to literally rewire my brain. And so in doing so, I'd had digestion issues my entire life. If I went somewhere, I could tell you where every bathroom was because I needed to stake it out. So in case I needed to run to the restroom, I knew where it was and wouldn't have any issues in public. And so once I started hearing about parasites, I was like, maybe I've got those. And you'd see the things online. Have you ever Googled the pictures, Ashley? The
Mm-hmm.
pictures online, like there are some gnarly looking pictures. And in the back of my
Right.
head, I'm like, oh, that's probably Photoshop. I don't know if that could really come out of a person. Like, oh, and it's kind of gross. Well, I bought a couple of kits. I bought one that was like, well, don't tell my husband. He listens to your podcast though. Dang it. Okay, so I bought one that was numerous hundreds of dollars, and we're just going to keep it at numerous. I'm not willing to say the amount, but it was a lot of money. They showed what came out of people's bodies, and I am really good. If I've got a protocol to do, I follow it, and I did the protocol. Nothing happened. And so I tried some other ones and I thought, okay, I don't have parasites. And then I added the acerola cherry powder that has been grown in that permaculture system with that beautiful zinc, copper, in the middle, that helps your body to access the zinc. And I started releasing parasites.
Okay, hold on, wait a sec. Okay. So you bought a really expensive parasite cleanse
Oh,
kit,
yeah, yeah. No,
and
we're just going to keep it at that.
how many
We're
months did you do the cleanse?
Oh, I worked at it for a year because I was
Wow.
pretty convinced that I had parasites, but I did all of these different protocols and nothing. I didn't release parasites. And so I thought, okay, I've put a year of finances into it. Honey, we'll talk about how much later if you're listening. I put a year of finances into it, a year of energy and dedication and follow through, and never saw a parasite release. And so I thought, okay, this is one of those things, those pictures on the internet are probably photoshopped. But you just have to have a couple of components put together. Number one, magnesium. Number two, we just talked about boron is crucial because the boron and the magnesium together creates that inhospitable place for the parasites to hang out. Instead of being a great hotel, you become a ratty, a not good hotel for the parasites to hang out. And then it was when I added the acerola cherry powder, that good whole food vitamin C with a copper core that's been grown in the proper way. And the combination of those things, Ashley, and that's when, oh, the pictures, 18 to 24 inches long.
Oh my gosh. So I've done parasite cleanses before, and I didn't get the 18 to 24 inches, and I've been eating sushi since I was 3 years old. So I'm like, I kept thinking, well, maybe I just don't have, like, I've seen some kind of weird things,
Right, right.
I've seen some weird things out after doing a parasite cleanse. I thought, okay, that was probably it. I don't have anything more. But in the back of my mind, there's this little voice going like, what if you didn't get them all? Right.
Right.
And I had Dr. Jay Davidson on the show twice, and he has I really like his parasite cleanse. It's
Uh-huh.
very gentle, it's very effective. But he doesn't include acerola cherry powder, so that's good. Now, are you You loved acerola cherry powder so much, though, didn't you start, because you love it so much and it made such a difference, didn't you start selling it as well?
We did. We import it because it needs to be grown properly. My husband is his whole passion in life is permaculture and restoring the mineral balance back in the soil. He is gardener. That's his happy place to be out in that garden. My happy place is to eat his produce, but his is to actually be in the garden growing it. And so when we recognized that so many of the whole food vitamin C was not being grown in a way that the optimal nutrition was there because of his connections in the permaculture community, we were able to find this little family farm that they have all of these herbs and plants planted around the acerola cherry bush, and that way the nutrients are shuttled back and forth in the soil. And because of that, it increases the copper core at the middle of that little berry. And so when you do that, your body can rebalance that zinc copper and the high vitamin C, and it just the magnesium, the boron, the acerola. And I have to say, Ashley, I did a group cleanse, a parasite class, and so many women had incredible success. And that's great. Yay, celebrate. There was a handful of women who did everything that was a part of that, and they had no success. I don't
Hmm.
like that. And I went to them and I said, we are missing a link here. We are missing a link. I don't want you leaving this program not having success. Would you be willing to continue working with me? There's something for us to learn together. I am so grateful for that group of women. They were willing to be vulnerable and open and really share with me. And we just kept working and we put the puzzle piece together. And literally, our voice is connected to our digestion. Think of it as
Mm.
a power line. The power of your voice equals the power of your digestion. And this group of women had lost the power of their voice. And as they reclaimed their power, the parasite release started to happen. So it's on a parasite release, it's not just about checking off a list and making sure you've got all the supplements. You must put that mindset and be willing to take your power back because your energy goes up, your ability to communicate goes up, your ability to follow through with ideas and life and your passion goes up. But you have to be willing to increase your accountability. So, for example, let's say you're a group of women and everybody's going to go out to eat and they're saying, oh, where should we go? And most women, oh, it doesn't matter. I'll go wherever. That's just a little teeny way that you're leaking. Stand up and say, I want to go here. Let's go. We leak the power in our voice in so many different ways. And so claiming, figuring out and realizing where the leaks are and taking that power back increases your digestion. And when you have those things in place and you tap back into your power, bam, that's when it starts to happen. And every one of those women had lost. And it was interesting, all of them had had traumatic childhoods. And so, as little girls, they had lost the power of their voice. It had been taken from them. And so, as they stepped back into that power, it connected and the release began. And so it's not just about supplements on that one. That group of women taught me that mind body connection is so powerful and we have to have both of those.
Brilliant. I love it. It's so cool. They got back their voice and then the parasites died and started coming out of them.
In fact, it used to be when I first started doing parasite cleanses, it used to be that, oh, there was all of this stuff you had to follow through on. And now it's so simple. It is so incredibly simple. Taking back your power is the biggest component. And I love to see women. In fact, I issue a challenge and I'll say, okay, I want you to focus the most on finding where you're leaking your power. Maybe it's in your financial relationship with money. Maybe it's in a relationship with a girlfriend. Maybe it's in a relationship with your parents. I don't know where it is, but find where you're leaking your power and let's see what we can do just claiming our power before we start adding everything in. And a lot of times, and most of them have already started the magnesium and the boron and the acerola, we don't even have to add all of that other stuff. And it just keeps it really simple and easy. But claiming that power is the biggest part of staying on top and maintaining a parasite free body.
That is fascinating. I mean, absolutely the mind body connection because the mind
Oh,
is constantly listening. The body's constantly listening to our thoughts. Just like you could think about like a zombie jumping out, or you could, watch a movie and something scares you, or you could think about something bad happening to someone you love, and immediately your heart starts racing. You go into stress mode just by
right.
thinking about something negative. And so, of course, there's a mind body connection. Very interesting, though, the loss of power, the loss of personal power in relationship to digestive health. Now, I just have I want to clear up some things. So
Okay.
you spent a year on a bunch of herbs that kill parasites, nothing happened.
Yeah. Oh, I did. I did machines. I did all sorts of things actually. When I go into something, I go in all
I bet.
I did all sorts of things. And here's the thing, I got benefit from those protocols. My skin would look better. I felt better. I learned a lot of things, but I never saw parasites leave my body.
And so during that year of parasite cleanses, you were on magnesium and boron already?
Yes, at that point I was on magnesium and boron. Yes.
And then a year went by and you decided to take acerola cherry powder.
Mhm.
Were you currently at the moment that you were taking the acerola cherry powder, were you also taking a bunch of herbs at the same time for killing
No.
parasites, or you'd stopped everything?
Yeah, by then I had stopped everything and I had put like, okay, I don't have parasites. That's not an issue for me. And so I wasn't taking any more of the parasite herbal things or using any of the machines. I was starting to I knew that my T4, T3 was not converting well. I wasn't taking the T4, that slow Eeyore thyroid hormone and converting it into T3. I think of it like the Tigger hormone, that just moves and gives you the energy and you need that conversion process. And I wasn't converting that very well. You could tell in my hair, Ashley, my hair had a dullness to it and the ends started to break. And so I knew that my body was giving me feedback that I needed a better T4, T3 conversion, and my energy was low. And so that's when we had found this acerola cherry powder. And that conversion, when you add that acerola cherry powder, it's the fastest way that I know of to get your body naturally with foods converting from T4 to T3. And so the combination of the boost to my thyroid because of the acerola cherry powder and already having the magnesium and the boron in my body and being in a process of taking my power back, being comfortable with the fact that I am powerful. That was something I couldn't even say back then. Like that would have made me
Mm.
just shake to even say those words, I am powerful. And so that combination and oh my goodness. And it was a process. It was a learning curve in releasing those parasites because I would release them and think, oh, okay, I feel great. And there would be some emotional upheaval during the release. And then after, I would just feel spectacular. And then I'd go about 30 to 45 days and another release would happen. Well, I wasn't getting all of them. And so it just became this pattern every 30 to 45 days. And I'm like, this is not right. I'm missing something here. And so on my quest to figure out what and why, I learned what it was hydrochloric acid. I didn't have a strong hydrochloric acid presence. And hydrochloric acid literally burns the male organs of the parasite so they can't reproduce. And so I was missing that component and I wasn't frying their sexual parts. And so the reproduction, I know, isn't that, I can't believe I'm talking about this actually. Oh my goodness. Anyway, but people need to know because if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid, I don't care how many parasite cleanses you do, you're just going to be doing another one. And I don't want to live to focus on health. I want to be healthy to focus on living. And I had it backwards. I was my whole day. And yes, I felt good, but it was taking my whole day. I wasn't
Hmm.
building these rich, beautiful relationships with my adult children and my grandchildren like I wanted to. And so when I experienced that parasite release and was able to figure out, oh, Kristen, build hydrochloric acid, and then it walks you away from the constant reproduction cycle that's happening. That's when my health became low maintenance and I still feel great. It just doesn't take me the work that it used to achieve that.
How did you increase your hydrochloric acid? Did you take it as a supplement or did you do things to increase your body's ability to produce hydrochloric acid?
I tried lots of things. And so I did a betaine protocol and I added the betaine and I didn't have a lot of success with that. I got clear up to I think 18 because I don't know if you're familiar. I'm sure you are. You're Ashley. The where you take it and then take a betaine and then if it burns, you neutralize it with baking soda, and then one below the burn is your dosage for betaine. I got
Yes.
clear up to 18 and didn't experience anything,
Wow.
and I wasn't comfortable taking like this. I mean, like it was taking me swallow after swallow after swallow to take these pills. And I was taking them. I'm like, this just isn't right. This just, it doesn't feel right to be taking this many. And I don't want to go to 20 pills and I'm still not experiencing that burn that people talk about. And so I turned back to whole foods. It's like, okay, Kristen, go back to your roots. Whole foods. What whole food can increase hydrochloric acid? Celery juice. And so celery juice for me is what really rebuilt my hydrochloric acid.
Very cool. Yeah, so just to clarify what you were for those who want to take a hydrochloric acid supplement and I have helped because I have been using supplements in my health coaching for almost 8 years now, helping people with supplements to get their body back into balance. And I love using a digestive enzyme that's a complex that has the enzymes and the hydrochloric acid
Mhm.
and the
Yeah,
ox bile together when needed. And it's not the only time I'd use it long term is if someone has had a gallbladder removed or has
right,
had a gastrointestinal surgery, so they have a like an anatomical reason why
right.
they'd want to be on it long term. But short term, like, and especially in pregnancy, because in pregnancy we actually produce less hydrochloric acid. And when I was in my pregnancy, it was a godsend to be on a multi-spectrum digestive enzyme. It
Mhm.
really, really helped. But those who have a lot of gas and burping, belching, bloating, and and also any kind of GERD or acid reflux really benefit from hydrochloric acid complex. Um, and how you dose it, which is what you just touched on, is you start with one pill right before the meal, and then the next meal, if you didn't feel a warming sensation in your stomach, kind of like you took a shot of whiskey or tequila on an empty stomach, that kind of warming, not quite burning, but like a warming sensation in your stomach. It doesn't feel like acid reflux because it's not coming up your throat, but just down in your stomach. If you don't feel a warming sensation, then the next meal you do 2 capsules, next meal do 3 capsules. I knew one woman who was so bad she was on 9 capsules a day of this one really, really high quality supplement. But we got her whole body back into balance and also dialed in her diet and everything, and now she doesn't need to take them at all, so she was
Yeah,
able to wean herself off. But it took her 9 capsules to get to the warming sensation, whereas me, if I take 2 capsules, I'll feel the warming sensation. So I just
right.
because I've got my digestion back in order, so I don't need to take it. But that's why the dosing for digestive enzymes or hydrochloric acid is different for everyone. You can't really say
Every
the
single
bottle
person.
says take 1 or 2 with
Right.
each meal, and that's bogus, because you have to figure out where you are right now. I'm really liking, though, what you said about celery juice. So you added the celery juice back in, or you added the celery juice to your diet. How soon did you start to see results with your digestion? Did it take days or weeks or months of drinking celery juice? And how many celery sticks? And did you just drink it once a day? Can you just, for those who are really interested in trying this, how did you do it?
For me personally, and this I really see varying in my clients. So just because this, I just want that disclaimer out there that this is what works for me, but it may not be what works for someone else on the celery juice. So I do 16 ounces on an empty stomach every morning. And I used to have to do that before a meal, but now I don't have to anymore as my digestion just gets better and better and better.
Mm-hmm. Cool. How many stalks of celery is that roughly, or is that like a whole head of celery, or?
So I buy the organic celery from Costco and one bag of that, and I think it's 2.5 pounds. Oh, I think it's 2.5 pounds, and one bag of that will do my husband's and mine. So we get 32 ounces from 2.5 pounds in that Costco bag.
Oh, okay. Do you use a centrifugal juicer, or do you use a masticating juicer?
I'm a masticating juicer kind of girl.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. It's just so interesting when you get into juicing. There's such a divide
Oh,
between the
is
different
there?
kinds of juicers, right? Very
Yeah.
cool. Awesome. Well, that is such great info. So coming back to it, so you spent a year on and off herbs, and you didn't really see results. Then you added
Mm-mm.
you stopped the herbs,
I just took a break.
and you
I was
took a
just like,
break.
okay,
You
I'm done.
you added the cherry powder, and all of a sudden you were expelling worms, dead worms. And they're dead,
Mhm.
by the way, because my husband's like, I'm not gonna do this if they're alive. They're like, no, 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 they die and then they come out of you, and if they're alive, they're still attached to you, so you want them to die. So you basically added nutrients to your body, and your
Mhm.
body was able to get rid of them. Um, and then how many months did it take you to figure out to get on the cherry, sorry, to get on the celery juice?
So I did 6 or 7 rounds every 30 to 45 days that I was having,
Mm,
expelling them again.
right,
And
right.
I was like, okay, there is a missing piece here. And so it probably took me 3.5 months with celery juice.
Before
Mhm.
you stop seeing the regrowth.
Right, right. And
Wow,
and literally that hydrochloric acid fries their sexual organs.
that's
And
awesome.
if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid, you've just got another reproduction round happening. And at that point you become a five-star hotel.
Now, coming to the back to the cherry, the acerola cherry
Mm,
powder,
uh-huh.
the one that you sell on your website. Now, our listeners will get 10% off by using the coupon code LTH. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely they will.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I'm now super curious. I was perusing through your website, a long time ago, and I saw the acerola cherry powder, and I didn't think anything of it because I didn't have a experience or a conversation with you about it till now. Um, Copper, so it helps you with copper and zinc and vitamin C and antioxidants. Copper, just for little interesting trivia. Copper is needed it's one of the cofactors to produce elastin and collagen. So if you have a copper deficiency, you will get premature gray hair. It also is part of pigmentation
Mhm.
production. Alopecia, those with,
Yeah.
those with patches of discolored skin, like what Michael Jackson had, where the skin goes white from lack of pigmentation.
Yeah.
But really common is the gray hair, or the premature white hair, premature fine lines and wrinkles. Also varicose veins, and finally, what you can die from a copper deficiency long term is an aortic aneurysm. And so this naturopath that trained me, he did a 12-year, $25 million federally funded study. He headed it, and they did a million histopathologies and blood panels, 5,000 human autopsies, and they studied also animals as well. And they found that, because, we're animals too, right? And what he discovered is every animal and human that died of an aortic aneurysm had a copper deficiency.
Really? I didn't know that about the aortic aneurysms. That's super interesting. And just, here's one of my philosophies is healthy women are connected to their power, connected to education, connected to knowledge, and you just connected me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. So you look at the prime example of a copper deficiency is Albert Einstein. Premature gray hair. He
Oh,
died of an
yeah.
aortic aneurysm.
Interesting.
But we can see, 30 years before an aortic aneurysm is going to happen, we can see it in the premature gray hair, the fine lines of
Body's
wrinkles,
trying to tell us.
right, exactly. The body is, because the body's breaking down slowly, just like scurvy is, we see it as bleeding of the gums, but we don't consider, anytime you brush your teeth, if your gums bleed, you have like a tiny vitamin C deficiency. But if it's going to show up in your gums, what's happening to your heart? Like, what's happening to the blood
Right,
vessels in more important areas? So we
right.
need to, absolutely, we need to increase our vitamin C. We're not getting enough every day. Copper is so important, like I said. And then zinc is fundamental in our immune system. I've been very sensitive about boosting immune health because of my son, and he was catching all the little colds. And one of the things I added, which made a big difference, was making sure he was getting enough zinc. And I really noticed a difference, in addition to everything else we're doing. But zinc is incredibly important. And the doctor that I mentioned, he also discovered that zinc deficiency in utero is the cause of Down syndrome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that connection either. I think it's so crucial for people to understand on vitamin C dosing. No one can tell you how much you need. Your vitamin C will be different from my vitamin C because it's determined by the strength of your adrenals. You can only
Mm.
hold as much vitamin C as your adrenals are strong. So the stronger your adrenals, the longer your body holds it. So building those adrenals with magnesium is so important.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I studied Dr. Matthias Rath. He studied with Linus Pauling, and he has an institute, and he studies vitamin C and vitamin C's cofactors. Back in 2005, I downloaded his ebooks. I think they're still available, and he's written a bunch of free books. One of them's called "Why Animals Don't Get Heart Attacks But People Do." And his thing is he talks about the animals. Some animals can produce their own vitamin C, and a goat will have 18 grams of vitamin C coursing through its veins at any given time, and a wolf will have roughly 32 grams of vitamin C. And vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, so we burn through it. We can't store it. You can't store water-soluble vitamins. You can store fat-soluble vitamins, but a water-soluble vitamin you have to constantly get on a daily basis. Well, if a goat needs 16 grams, in their veins at all times, and a wolf needs 32, like, we're what, twice or three or four times the size of a, goat
Right.
or a wolf. How many grams do you think we need? So,
Yeah.
and what's interesting about the RDA, this is me on my soapbox for a minute, my little angry soapbox where I rant and rave. They say the RDA is 50 milligrams of vitamin C, and that's actually, people think that's the maximum. It's
Oh,
the
it's just enough to keep you.
minimum.
Yeah, it's just enough. It's just giving your body a taste. Oh, Ashley, we'll rant on this one together. It drives me nuts.
Right? And so what they did is they took, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is from my memory. The story is they took inmates who had scurvy, and they gave them 1 milligram at a time until they could get the bleeding gums to go away.
Yeah, so just enough to keep you from getting scurvy is the
Yep.
RDA.
Right. Just a barely diseased is
Right.
RDA. And people
That's
think
how I
that's
wanna live, Ashley, just
just barely
barely
diseased.
diseased.
Yes, right, exactly.
Wrong.
Right.
Said no one ever.
So the point is don't listen to an RDA for your maximum. Consider it's the bare minimum to keep
Right.
us just barely functioning. And so vitamin C is something that we need to make sure that we're highly dosed on. But what is interesting about vitamin C is if you overdo it, if you take a synthetic vitamin C, you get the vitamin C powder that's, derived from corn or something, some kind of big vitamin C powder, and you're just, chugging it all day long. The problem is that high dose vitamin C without its cofactors will make you deficient in copper.
Yeah.
So it'll rob your copper, and it
Steals
actually
it. It's a
robs.
thief.
Yeah, it is. It will rob to high dose vitamin C just in a synthetic form. It'll rob other nutrients to balance, just like if you took a calcium supplement. It would rob the magnesium from other tissues to balance it out, because we need our nutrients with all the cofactors. So I really like that your acerola cherry powder has that balance of the zinc and the copper and the all the cofactors with the vitamin
Yeah.
C.
And not only the cofactors, it just the way it's grown in the system that it's grown, there's such respect for the land and the plants and a variety of plants that are grown around it that can offer their support and their nutrients. And because that soil is so rich, it shuttles those nutrients back and forth. It's one of my favorite products.
That's cool. So tell us a bit about your acerola cherry powder. How do you take it? How do you dose it? How do you drink it? And then also tell us how many milligrams are in it?
So I take it I mix a drink that has some coconut water and some grapefruit juice, and I add it, and then it's got some good blue green algae. And then I add the acerola into there. I call it my one and done drink, like boom, boom, slug it back. And so that's how I do mine. Ashley, because you and I did a roller coaster ride, off the top of my head, I cannot tell you the milligrams because I did not think we were going to end up talking parasites today. And so, off the top of my head, I'm absolutely clueless, but it does have it on the back of the label, and I can get that to you. But off the top of my head, I thought we were going a totally different place, but I should have been more prepared. This is an Ashley James Learn True Health podcast. Just know all things. So I'm sorry. I
It's totally
cannot give that
fine.
to you off the top of my head. It's that the thing about that any vitamin C, and I had a lady come to me and she said, Kristen, I am so overwhelmed, which, if you're listening and you have ever been overwhelmed, you are leaking your power in that moment of
Mm.
overwhelm. You are leaking that power. And she said, I'm so overwhelmed when I go in the health food store. How, there's just so many things and I can't afford it. And I said, oh, that's easy. Anything that has ascorbic acid in it doesn't cross my lips. And you start looking at all those supplements with ascorbic acid and they're not balanced. And so when you go to those that whole food nutrition, that whole food vitamin C. And I just feel so lucky that we're able to work with this farm. It's in Brazil, and it was through my husband's permaculture connection that we were able to connect up with them. And I do want to tell your listeners, Ashley, sometimes we do run out of it. And it's not something that I go to a different source just to put it in a jar and sell it because I will only get it from this one place. It's a family run farm and their soil has been in the family for generations and it's been farmed properly. And so it's not something that I can just go run somewhere else from a different supplier and source it. And so when we're out until the next crop comes in. So far, we've been able to keep a pretty steady supply of it. But we are going into what I consider to be the best time to do a parasite cleanse in the spring.
Yes.
Seems to be the easiest time to really get those liver flukes and those kinds of things that are in our bodies. And so I'm hoping that we've got enough to hold strong this crop that we just got in.
Very cool. Now, is this the same as taking a tart cherry juice for so I know I've taken tart cherry juice in the past. I know other people take it for help. It helps with melatonin production. It is a great anti-inflammatory. It's a great antioxidant, but it also supports the body in breaking down urea, which is what creates gout.
Mhm.
Is that the same as the acerola cherry
No,
powder?
it's a completely different plant. Has
Okay.
many it would, think of it like sisters. So if you were to see my sisters, you can tell that they're my sisters. We have some very similar qualities, but there are some things about us that are just polar opposite and that don't cross over at all. And that's how I think of the tart cherry juice. I don't want to be without either of those. The tart cherry juice I use more as a spot treatment, where the acerola, because of the nutrient profile and the benefit to my thyroid in converting from T4 to T3, because I was just reading a study, I can't remember, was it, I think it was Texas A&M, that 80% of us have lost that conversion factor of T4 to T3. And so the acerola cherry powder is something I want in my body every day, where the tart cherry I use if I'm having an immune flare or my husband's having a little gout flare. So similar, but very different.
Got it. Very cool. Is there anything else that's been left unsaid or you want to say about the parasite, killing parasites before we move on?
Anything about killing parasites? Yes, be prepared that it can be a huge range of emotions. And this actually, Ashley, you just kind of segued me into one of the things that I thought we were going to end up talking about,
Good.
and that's patterns that come up.
Mm-hmm.
And so patterns can come up in our life that walk us away from being healthy. And the biggest pattern that I see with parasites is that of playing the victim. And I want women to remember that, as, think of it, if you had someone that had been living in your beautiful home and being fed meals and being taken care of and not having to pay rent, and then all of a sudden you went to them and you said, no more free food. You now have to pay rent and start turning the lights off and make your own darn bed. They're going to get a little frustrated and like, what? You changed, you're changing it here. The parasites literally have communication. They have likes and dislikes. They have foods that they like, foods that they crave. And when you step in and say, okay, I'm going to get rid of them, they get stirred up. And so be prepared for a range of emotions. And one of the things that breaks my heart when I see women doing a parasite cleanse is the breakdown in relationships that they will damage, not recognizing these emotions are not mine. These emotions are because of this release that I'm having. And think twice before you say things to your loved ones. It is a range and a depth of emotions. For me, it brought an incredible depth of healing from my sexual abuse because it was very similar. I went through the same thoughts of nobody's going to believe me, I'm dirty. And so I had the opportunity to heal that at an even deeper layer. I call it wrapping myself in more gold. I was able to take more beautiful gold and heal my soul and my heart with. But remember that just because you're experiencing that emotion doesn't mean you need to put voice to it in your relationships with other people, because I've really seen some heartbreaking situations. And once you say it, it takes longer to heal than it does, in that moment of you saying it. So really, grab a journal and journal those emotions out and make sure and be really conscious in your relationships of, is this an emotion I'm experiencing because of this parasite release and the rebalancing I'm doing, or is this truly a frustration with this person? Because we don't want to damage relationships. We want to build relationships and deep connections. The healthiest women I know are the most deeply connected to other people.
Oh, that is so true. You just made me examine my life and go, where do I play the victim? It's really interesting. I did like a cleanse last month and I tore my husband's head off for about 5 days straight. I couldn't believe it. Man, all I did was change my food. What's going
Yeah.
on? It really does. There really is that mind body connection.
Yeah, it's powerful and it's strong, and I've done that same thing, and it wasn't until I watched other women do it and I was
Mm.
able to see the damage, and I had to go back to my husband, and we called it come to Jesus meeting, and I'm like, "Honey, I need to take total accountability and I am so sorry for the way that I treated you. It was inappropriate." And so watching other women and then seeing it over and over and over again, I realized, ooh, this is something, it wasn't just my experience. This is our experience when we release these parasites and literally take the digestion of the power of our digestion back, that we really need to evaluate. Just because I'm feeling that doesn't mean I need to express that to this person that I love.
Cool. I think my brain is still in the parasite conversation. Um, just one last question on that. If someone were to take back their personal power, stop being a victim, own, like really get their voice back,
Mhm.
take the magnesium and boron on a regular basis for good health, take the acerola cherry powder, is that enough? Oh, and help to improve their digestion should their digestion be lacking. So drinking the celery juice or taking hydrochloric acid supplement, whichever one works better for them. But is that enough to start seeing parasites die on its own, or um, have you seen women need to add, in addition to that, add something like clove and other herbs that kill the eggs, or is that enough of a magic formula to create the inhospitable environment that really does get rid of the parasites?
It absolutely varies person to person.
Right.
Some people need to add the cloves, the wormwood, and the black walnut. Some
Mm-hmm.
people don't. I've always, and again, I'm going back to my husband. And I've gotten this philosophy from him that I want the least amount of input for the maximum output. And so I want to start with the least that I can to get the maximum. And then if it's not working, then I add more when it comes to supplements. And so I just approach it that way with my clients. If I can have, okay, total vulnerable moment here. If I can have more money to spend on shoes and not supplements, I am a happy woman. Oh, I'm a happy woman. And so I want to do it with the least amount that I can. There are some people, though, absolutely, that they need to go into the clove, wormwood, and black walnut.
That
Absolutely.
makes
But
sense.
there are some who absolutely do not, and it's overkill. It's absolutely overkill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ashley, do you want to talk about one more thing on parasites?
Yes.
Okay, we're at the top of the roller coaster, Ashley. Buckle up. Turpentine.
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 What? Now I've heard some stuff about it, but I'm not. I'm. This is new
Can we
territory
talk
for me.
turpentine?
Yes.
Okay. So it has to be so I had hookworms. Okay. Let me back up a little bit. So when I started releasing the parasites, I shared that I really went through this. I'm dirty. Nobody's going to believe me. This isn't really happening, which is exactly how I felt as a little girl about the abuse. And so it
Mm.
was quite a big emotional thing for me. And my husband finally looked at me with all the love that he has for me, which is a lot. And he said, what can we do to move you out of this place that you're at in your mind? Because I kept like, oh, I know this, it's not really a parasite, and I just do this back and forth, which was leaking my power, playing the victim to the
Mm-hmm.
parasites.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found a lab that I could send samples to, and then they were able to tell me what kind of a parasite I have, because you need the Latin name of your parasites. You don't really. It just was a lot of money, but I needed that because it gave. At that point, I needed the external validation that, yes, this was really happening to me. And so one of the things I started seeing was half worms. You can have nightmares about half worms and wondering what's happening to the other half.
Oh my
Why did I
gosh.
only get half of a worm out? And it was very obvious that it was a half worm, and I couldn't get those out. And so I sent the half worm to be tested, and it came back that it was a hookworm. And the hookworm literally, oh, Ashley, I hope people, anyway, oh, I can't believe we're talking about this. Anyway, the hookworm hooks into your intestines. And so during the release, only half of it was coming out and the other half was hooked in. And so as I researched and went to people who had gone through it before, I'm a huge believer in shorten my learning curve and learn from somebody who's already walked the path. And so I found people to help me, and she was like, "Oh, you need to do some turpentine." I was like, "Paint? Isn't that's the stuff my dad used to clean paintbrushes with?" Was my only experience with turpentine. And she said, "Well, that's synthetic turpentine. You want the real turpentine." And she gave me a link to it. And Ashley, I can send you the kind that I used so that your listeners can see. I got it off of Amazon. The price keeps going through the roof, and it's getting more and more expensive. But I literally, to get rid of the hookworms, I took 6 sugar cubes and I did 2 stacks of 3. And then I took this little pipette thing and I dropped the turpentine, the very specific type of turpentine, on the stacks of sugar cubes. And then I ate them. And
Isn't it an
it,
extract from wood?
pine,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
natural.
from pine. Yes, yes.
What
The
you're
right
talking about
kind.
is 100% natural.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. It's 100% natural. It comes from pine, but you have to, there's synthetic that absolutely would make you sick and ill. And then there's this brand that I use that you can get on Amazon. And so I took that, and it was quite the dramatic moment. I was like, because it has a very strong smell. And I'm like, I cannot believe, number one, that I'm eating sugar cubes. I really watch what I eat, and here I am, and it's turpentine. And okay, now imagine up to this point, my husband is so supportive of everything that I do. Like, okay, maybe not my shoe habit, but he is so supportive of everything. And he is looking at me going, Kristen, it says it's turpentine. You have lost it. Like, I'm really worried. And I'm like, no, I've done my research. I've done my research. I'm going to do this, because I was like not sleeping at night thinking of half the worm and what was it doing inside my body. So I take it and I sniff it, and then I'm like leaning over and my hands on the chair, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I've done the research. I am the CEO of my life and my health. I'm comfortable with this. And so I ate it, and it was not as nasty as I thought it was going to be. It tasted like a tree and sugar put together. And so as I'm swallowing it, and I've got like another stack to get down, and I'm holding onto the chair, bracing myself like, okay, Kristen, you can do this. And I'm really like getting in the right mindset, like almost before a football game. And then it hits my stomach. And my stomach just immediately got swollen. How it got swole
Swelled
up?
up?
Swelled up? Is
Mhm.
that the right English? Oh my gosh.
Maybe.
My English teacher father is disappointed in me at this moment. Anyway, it got really puffy. like got I looked like I was pregnant, and
Mm.
I'm done with my babies. And I was like, "Oh my gosh," and like really uncomfortable. And immediately I started expelling the other half of the worms, and there was about 12 of them.
Mm. Oh my
Now,
gosh.
so they didn't release completely until I did the turpentine, but it was only hookworms. It was only hookworms that I released on that one.
Mhm. Now you can get hookworms by having pets like dogs or from walking barefoot. I just Googled it. Don't image search it. Don't. I just did, and
Yeah. Oh,
don't
did
do
you,
it.
Ashley?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
I'm
should have said the
curious.
disclaimer beforehand.
Don't do
Oh,
it.
they're bad.
Yeah.
And now for me, and oh gosh, Ashley, I hope you'll still hang out with me after
Oh
this
yeah. Are you
podcast.
kidding? I love this stuff.
So I took pictures of everything, and part of that was
Yes.
because I was not believing, and so I would, like, gear up. Like, I had the yellow, my mom used to wash dishes with them to keep her hands nice because she didn't have a dishwasher, so the
Yellow
gloves that
gloves,
go,
yeah.
yeah, the yellow
Sure.
cleaning gloves,
Yeah.
and so I would get my yellow gloves on, and I would take pictures, and I have those pictures, and I will look at them, and I will just think, "Okay, I know that's the black and white tile that my boys helped me lay in that upstairs bathroom. That is my bathroom, and those came from my body." But it was at that point, Ashley, that my health became low maintenance. I'm healthy,
Wow.
but I'm low maintenance healthy now. I mean, I still do things, and somebody else might look at what I do and think it's high maintenance. To me, it's low maintenance now. I sauna. I'm a huge sauna girl.
Mhm.
Um, and I, soak in my magnesium and take my supplements that I love, and so somebody else might look at that and think, "Oh my gosh, that's high maintenance." But compared to what I was doing,
Mhm.
it's just so low maintenance and so easy getting rid of those parasites. And my cravings 100% gone. I do not crave food.
Mhm.
Parasites were craving foods, not me.
Mhm.
It was not me. It was the parasites. And my digestion, now I'm a celiac. I was diagnosed about, let's see, how old's my youngest? I was diagnosed 23 years ago.
Mhm.
And so a compromised digestion system has always been a part of my experience. And I can actually see the day where my digestion is just so strong because I just don't have the issues with it like I used to. Like it was a daily issue for me. Oh, if I eat that, is that gonna sit, oh, I've got to go out in public. I maybe that bothered me one time. I mean, it was just this constant dance that I played with food. And I make healthy choices. I want to fuel this beautiful machine of mine. So I make healthy choices. Not perfect though. I don't claim to be a perfect eater. And the ability that my body has to digest foods, sometimes I get happy tears of just, wow, I never dreamed my digestion would get this good after having issues from when I was a little girl,
Mm.
my whole life.
Mhm.
Up into my grandma life. And it's so easy now. And the turning point for me was getting rid of those parasites.
That is phenomenal. And I love that are addressing the environment of the body as a whole. You're not saying take this parasite cleanse for 1 month, you'll be fine. No, it's the we have to always have our magnesium. We have to have the boron. We
Always.
want to have the acetyl cherry powder because it's a natural way to get all these great nutrients. And so you're creating this wonderful environment for health and a very inhospitable environment for the parasites long
Right.
term. So if you were to go out and walk barefoot or pet a dog or eat sushi or eat some unwashed raw vegetables or whatever way that we get different kinds of parasites into us, you have high hydrochloric acid, so it's going to kill the parasites right off
Right.
the bat.
Our
And if
body can manage them when
right,
it's balanced.
right, and if some got through your stomach, they wouldn't stick because you've created this wonderful environment to not let them stick to your body.
I'm forming this philosophy and I'm almost completely sold on it, Ashley. And that is, I don't think we ever completely get rid of them. I think we
Mm.
bring them to balance.
Hmm. That's interesting you say that because Dr. Jay Davidson has come to a very similar conclusion.
Oh, really?
It's in the realm of doctors and experts that study parasites and how to get rid of them. What they've found is that those with Lyme disease, for example, often have the same parasites, and that's because
Yeah.
they actually have, even though they're not beneficial, they are literally parasites. They're sucking your nutrients and
Right.
controlling your gut health. But what they do for us is they mop up heavy metals and they will suck up like sponges heavy metals out of our body and store them in their bodies so that the heavy metals are in our bodies. And what we're seeing is that when people do parasite cleanses, if they do them too quickly and they don't have the detox systems of the body ready, then
Yep.
they'll have a huge
They have a huge
spike.
flare and they feel worse.
Right, they have a huge
Oh, I'm
spike
so
of
glad you brought this
right,
up.
because when the parasites die, they're giving off ammonia, so you have ammonia spike in the body, but they're
Right.
also giving off all of the heavy metals that were in their bodies
Right.
back
You
to
need to
you.
have that magnesium RBC in place between 6.3 and 7 to handle the offset and the offload of all the stuff that's going to happen in your body. It's that, line by line, step by step process. You've got to have this piece in place before you do this piece. And for some people who are listening right now to this podcast, I know that visual in your mind. Oh, I've got to get rid of it now. Take your power back. Don't stress out about it, because when you stress out about it, your cortisol levels goes up, and that actually feeds the parasites. So we're just
Mm.
going to take a deep breath, and we know that you and I are in this together, and we're going to conquer this. Do you see the difference there between oh, I got to get rid of these, to hey, this is not happening anymore. I am taking the steps I need to get
Mhm.
rid of these parasites out of my body. The victim
Mhm.
pattern plays and rears its ugly head during a parasite cleanse. And the victim pattern, I think, as I've myself and I've worked with other women, is the sneakiest pattern to find. It's the hardest to see in ourselves. And we just need to be very open and aware of the many different ways that can play into our lives. And as we take that power back and make those really powerful feminine decisions, our health falls into place.
Very cool. Now, you in the past talked about magnesium RBC levels, and that's the blood test to get, which is the magnesium RBC test. In the past, you talked about getting to 5 as,
Oh,
so 5 is kind of like what people, I think you said like, was it 76% of people get to 5 within the 30 days of doing the 30-day challenge?
so after the challenge, we want you to be at 5. If you're not at a 5, you have a crack in your foundation. We have a cortisol addiction, or we have a taurine deficiency, we have a B vitamin deficiency, we've got a boron deficiency. There is something that is stopping your body from moving to a 5. And then the next step, chapter 2 of magnesium, is we want to get you to 6.3 to 7. And that's the ultimate. So after that 30-day soak, 5. Some people will get to 6.3. Most people will hover right around 5 after that 30 days. But then chapter 2 is moving your numbers up to 6.3. And that's when we know the body is saturated around every little beautiful, glorious red blood cell. And you have that detoxification ability to handle the offloading of ammonia and all the things that are going to happen if you choose to do a parasite release.
Whoa, very cool. Um, Tell us a bit about taurine. Why was that an issue?
It helps hold magnesium in the cell. And so sometimes people will soak in the magnesium, they'll feel better, but they just have to soak every single day. And that's not my goal, to get people soaking every single day. My goal is to help and support people in getting healthy, especially women. Man, I love you too. Women is my passion, because you empower a woman and she changes her family, her community, her state. It just, the ripple keeps moving out. And so we really want those numbers getting between 6.3 and 7 ultimately. But if they're not at a 5 after the 30-day soak, then we've got to step in. And that taurine can be one of the issues. And now I take blue green algae, which I think you do, the energy bites, right? The
Yes.
Yeah. And so that has taurine in it.
Great.
And so for those of us who are adding that blue green algae, you're getting that good taurine. Sometimes we have to add more blue green algae if we're super low in it. And so we need to up that a little bit to see if that will help us to hold it. And sometimes I don't. I don't like to do synthetic powdered taurine, but every once in a while, just a couple doses of it, if they're really like, I had one lady that got her magnesium tested and she was like at a 3, and she was so frustrated and disappointed. And I said, okay, let's just try taurine. She added just a couple of doses, and then she soaked for 2 weeks, like a 30-day challenge, but just, for 2 weeks. And then she got retested and it bumped her clear up to 5.6. And so sometimes not a long-term solution, but it can be a short-term solution, Ashley, if we have a crack in that foundation. And the only way to find out if you have a crack is to get that testing done after that 30-day challenge. So
Absolutely.
important to know, okay, I'm soaking in the magnesium and my RBC is moving. So important.
Right. And then for those who'd like to get that blood test, because it's very affordable, they can go to the website walkinlab.com, not walk-in labs. I always type it with an S and that website doesn't work. It has to be walkinlab.com. And that will you can buy the lab if you're in the United States. If other countries you'll have to talk to your doctor and see if you can get the test. But very interesting. So you want it after a 30-day challenge. You want it to be 5, but then in
Right.
the long term, you want to be between 6.3 and 7. Why is that?
Because that means that every red blood cell is surrounded by magnesium. You're at your optimal for magnesium.
Got it. Taurine is interesting. That's why they call it Red Bull. They put taurine in Red Bull, the energy drink. It used
Hmm.
to be an extract from the semen or the ox bile of bulls, but they can get it from other animal tissues. But
Right.
really, we want to get it from algae. So we're not
I'm a
getting,
blue-green algae girl, and
right. Yeah.
I'm a huge blue-green algae, and I take it often and numerous, and I love it. But so the synthetic taurine is an option if you're not a blue-green algae, but truly blue-green algae it's like a family. My family works better when we're all together. And taurine done synthetically is a single on its own. And so the best place to get that is the blue-green
Right,
algae,
with all the cofactors. Yeah,
all the
so
cofactors.
energybits.com, just a little plug. Energybits.com, use the same coupon code as you would at Kristen's website, Living the Good Life Naturally. So energybits.com, use the coupon code LTH, and listeners get 20% off. I've had Catherine Arnston, the founder of Energy Bits, on the show numerous times. And if you want to listen to like 6 or 7 hours of information on the power of blue-green algae, then go to learntruehealth.com and type in Energy Bits or type in algae, chlorella, spirulina, and in the search bar, and you're going to get all the episodes that we did together on that. So that's wonderful to consider that you go, you get this very affordable blood test and you see where you are after doing 30 days of soaking magnesium, and that's a litmus test for what's going on. Are there cracks or no cracks in my foundation? And if there are cracks, then you kind of go down the list. You're looking at your taurine and your vitamin C and your boron, and so your cortisol. So you have this sort of checklist of the things to go through and make sure that we're in balance. And then you're using magnesium as your guide to
Mhm.
determine, to help you uncover other deficiencies. And I think that's fascinating because magnesium is like this master mineral. It's needed for over 1,800 enzymatic processes in the body. It is the most significant, most important mineral in the body. So of course, if you can't maintain it, there's a crack somewhere. And I love that you've, over the years and working with so many people, have developed this system to try to, using whole foods as much as possible, figure out where the missing link is.
You know what, Ashley? Can we take a little roller coaster ride? Just one little one on the
Absolutely.
Okay. You're so good to let me like squirrel and go other places. So nutrients are crucial. You and I are both very passionate about that. That mind-body connection. I've run this 3 different times now with different women in groups. And for those and all the women in the group had tested low on, they did not hit a 5, which will magnify your patterns. If you don't hit that 5, most women will experience a lot of different emotions, and it will magnify the patterns that you're living. I'm not good enough. I worked hard. It didn't pay off. The victim, comparing yourself to other people, a lot of different things will come up. The number one thing that helped them was going to gratitude,
Mm.
because cortisol leaks your magnesium. So you soak in magnesium and then you stand up and get frustrated, and you're pushing that magnesium out through your urine. And so, again, that magnesium mindset and stepping into more gratitude. So, for example, I did an early morning call this morning and was just, we're in the new house and we still don't have everything unpacked and systems, because our big focus was getting my office set up for this podcast today. And so I'm running around thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot be late for this call. Go to the dryer. I'm pulling out my husband's clothes, not mine. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm pulling out his. Of course, I'm not pulling out mine. And then I just stopped. And I'm like, okay, Kristen, you've got to walk what you talk. How grateful am I that I have this beautiful home to live in with a dryer that works? And just stepping into that gratitude stopped that cortisol spike and held on to my magnesium. Never underestimate the power of gratitude in healing your body, rewiring your brain to respond in gratitude. My husband does it naturally. So I get to have this beautiful example of it all the time. I am still rewiring my brain. I don't respond that way naturally, but I can step in and choose a better path when I went to stress this morning instead of gratitude, that I had a dryer, that I had a home, that I was running into an office to hop on a Zoom call. And so never, ever, ever underestimate the power of gratitude to help your body hold its magnesium at a better level.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Again, coming back to that mind body connection, and we've had many guests talk about it, myself included. I have a whole training system on teaching people how to completely eliminate anxiety from their life, procrastination, worry, fear, all that. And there's a huge component relating to the body. People come to me to take that course or to work with me one-on-one, wanting to work on the mind stuff. And I have to teach them we just need to look to see how this mind stuff, or this heart and mind stuff, have affected your body. Because
Yeah.
we've got a disconnect in this society where we really don't. It's so frustrating, and I don't know exactly where it came from, but we look at, our grandparents and our great grandparents, and their generation was suck it up, life's tough, suck it up, move on. Like,
Work a
don't,
little harder.
and
Did you ever hear that? Work a little harder,
yeah,
Kristen.
right.
Just work a little harder.
And no one would, talking to a therapist, that was, are you kidding me? You've got to be
Right.
tough. Men don't cry, boys don't cry.
Right.
What are you doing? So I don't know where this came from, but this, denial of emotions, right? And if you talked about your emotions, you're a pansy or a sissy, or you're weak.
Mm-hmm.
And even women, because in the workplace, we have to be as strong as men, and we have to even show less emotion, because if we show any emotion, we're going to be seen as, you're just being a woman, right? You're just like, somehow emotions make us weak and stupid. And for so many years, women weren't allowed in the workforce because they thought that we were crazy with all of our hysteria of emotions, right? So there's just been this hundreds of years of suppression of our connection, our mind, heart, and body. And that really, I almost, getting into a little bit of conspiracy, I kind of feel like it was by design, because if you can disconnect someone's heart, almost like the scarecrow and the cowardly lion and Wizard of Oz, if you can disconnect someone from their brain, from their heart, brain, and body,
You disconnect them from their purpose.
then you can control them. You
Yeah.
can control a population that is not connected to their heart and connected to their brain and calm and able to feel connected to their body. You have a very hard time controlling that population. So interesting. There's a lot of forces out there that want to disconnect us from our personal power.
Yeah. Change happens when a woman connects back to her personal power because as women, our gift is that we lift everyone around us. We don't just lift
Mm.
ourselves. It is our gift, our feminine gift is to lift others around us. And you get a woman feeling better, and she immediately starts thinking, what can I create here? How can I help here? What can I change here? How can I make it better here? And it changes communities. Tapping back into that power is crucial.
So cool.
Ashley, I love hanging out with
I
you.
love hanging out with you too. This has been so much fun. Time just flies. I really want to spend all day with you. And we've covered so many wonderful topics.
Thank you for allowing me the ability to just say, oh, Ashley, can we go here? Can we
Mm-hmm.
go here? Because so many times on a podcast, they're like, okay, you've got 12 minutes. I'm like, really? 12 minutes? Like, we can't even get into it at 12 minutes.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ashley, for your gift of allowing the people who come on your show the freedom to really dig a little deeper on the things that we're passionate about. You have an amazing gift and allowing and building this platform for us to stand on. So thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for coming to
Absolutely.
Seattle, downtown
I know,
Seattle.
right? My gut, the second my friend shared it with me, my intuition said, honey, there's more to this than meets the eye, and you better go there. So I listen.
I want to share a dream with you that actually got put up. We're big into vision boards at our house. And
Nice.
one of our visions is that we live on the Central California coast by the ocean, and we just bought our home here. And so we're really big into vision boards. And I actually have on my vision board, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I would love you and I to hang out in person and do some kind of class together.
That
I'm
would
just
be
throwing it out there,
amazing.
Ashley. Just throwing it out there. You are on my vision board, Ashley.
That's so cool. Well, my vision has been to host a Learn True Health conference, right? Or like a,
I'm there.
like yeah, an in person.
Front row.
That'd
I
be
want to
so
be on
much
the front row.
fun. I often imagine myself walking onto stage and saying, just opening up to like, and I just see in my mind's eye all the listeners beaming back at me and being able to be
Oh,
with them, because every time I record a interview, you're all with me. I just feel
yeah,
like we're all in this together,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
makes me so happy. And I get daily emails and Facebook messages, people sharing about the difference that this podcast has made in their life. And I remember a time that I was so sick and I was suffering and I felt so alone and I felt
yeah,
so hurt and I was totally in victim mode, but I was legitimately sick for so many years, and the pain was real, and finding my way out, crawling out of that cave, right?
yeah,
One little health habit at a time, finding my way out, and a lot of dead ends, right? But I got out. And then to turn around and be like, okay, reach my hand back into that cave and be like, come on, ladies,
yeah.
let's get out of this.
We
We
need,
can
we
get our
need
power
them.
back, right? So it's all of us together. We're all in this together. No matter what age you are, no matter what health conditions you have, whether you're super healthy or whether you're super sick or somewhere in between, we can always get even better health. And health is not just physical. That's a big thing I talk about on the show, is that it's emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, that it
Yeah,
is, that it's about our relationships, it's about the quality of our life, it's about feeling that life purpose, feeling that gratitude. It's not, it is what we put in our mouth, right? It is what we eat and drink,
so much more
and it's
though.
so much more than that. So
Yeah,
together
important,
we're going to
but so
learn,
much more.
right? Yes. And I would love to take this into the physical world and meet everyone physically.
Oh, wouldn't that be the
It
best
would be
day? That would be
wonderful.
the best
Yes,
day.
let's do
I
that
have
one day. Let's do that.
it actually, it's on my vision board.
It's gonna
I'm
happen.
really good at vision boards. My husband has
Yes.
taught me well, and I printed it off from your website, your picture. And it's got your logo and stuff on it. And it is on my vision board because I would love to do that. I want to tell your listeners something though. So, you know, before I get interviewed or go on podcasts, it's so I love coming on Ashley's because what you get on the podcast is what you get before the podcast. Ashley was so real, imagine, this is about how many downloads we're going. Was it 10,000 downloads, Ashley? I
Over,
can't
yeah,
remember.
yeah. So the episode will get over 10,000 downloads in the first month.
And so she wanted me to imagine each of you. She said, imagine they're there in the room with you. And it's so refreshing to me that before the podcast and Ashley on the podcast is the same person. There's this authenticity that just runs all the way through. And I truly consider it a privilege to be on this podcast with you, Ashley. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. I equally feel like it's a privilege to hang out with you too. And I was saying that because you were a little nervous, and I'm like, what do you have to be nervous about? Like, you're this
Oh,
awesome expert, but
do.
we're all human.
I did better. I did the first time, Ashley, I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was incredibly nervous. This time it was like butterflies that I got to fly in formation. It was like, "Okay, I can do this." And I was like the big boss lady and I got them to fly in formation. So I did much better. That first podcast, like after we were done, it wasn't a sad cry. It was just this release of all the oh, and I had tears after, like, okay, I did it. So this one,
That's
there will be
funny.
no tears. I've got a little celebration. Woohoo.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to publish this. When you can get back in our Facebook group, I know you had a lot going on in your life personally, so you took a break from Facebook. And when you're able to come back, definitely jump back in the Facebook group. You got a lot of fans there who
I
love you.
will. We have a little bit more of some personal things going on that it's really important to me. I will consider my life a failure if I put my business before my
Oh,
family.
absolutely. When you're ready. And I think it's so healthy to take breaks from Facebook, take breaks from social media. You have put faith in your team and in your family that runs the company. You put faith in them, and you're taking care of some personal stuff in your life.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I was raised by both my parents were entrepreneurs, and so they had
Really?
to juggle. They independently ran their own businesses. So
Wow.
in the 80s, my mom was running her own business, and my dad was running his in the 90s, but watching two very, very A-type personalities,
Mhm.
they had to make a lot of sacrifices and a lot of times had to choose business over family. There were some non-negotiables, and my birthday was one of them. And I never
Oh,
imposed that upon them.
yeah,
And
they did that for you.
that was a busy season for my dad, and he would always 100% be there for my birthday because it was
Oh,
his
I
day too,
love
right?
that. I
And
love
so,
that.
but it became an even more special day because I knew how much it meant for him to take time off
Yeah.
work. It was very special. And so they had some non-negotiables, but I definitely saw a lot of sacrificing where they had to sacrifice family in order to keep the business going. And I would see them hurt. Like, just my
Yeah.
mom wanted to just like hang out with her daughter, but she wanted to be a successful businesswoman. And so it would be this conflict within her. And as a parent, I have I've set a different values, a different standard. And in this day and age with technology, we can do more and more efficiently. And
Right.
I will not put my business in front of my son or in front
Yeah.
of my family. And so we do, we'll make little compromises where my husband will take him to the park or something while I have to edit a show. But if there
Right.
was, I definitely put my son first and put my family first and put my health first.
My VA was so happy because I said
Right?
to her, "I am going to be piling stuff on you so that I can keep that really good balance."
Nice. Yes. And I'm sure I could make more money if I put business before everything else, but then I wouldn't have what's the point in more money if you don't have your health and your life and your
And
family, right? Like,
relationships.
so you've got it. There has to be a balance. It is all about balance, and it does take a lot of self-reflection, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for
Oh, thank you.
stepping back from social media and from a lot of the stuff you have been doing. I'm very thankful. One of the first things you've done since stepping back into business is come back on the show.
Oh, Ashley, I don't say no to you because it's my favorite. You let me squirrel and roller coaster ride wherever. I mean, who knew we were gonna end up talking parasites today? That wasn't even like I'd written out kind of some thoughts and ideas of things, and who knew we'd be on
Well,
parasites?
you're just this wealth of experience and knowledge, so I want to have you back on the show, of course, as a
Oh,
regular.
I'd love
And
to. Yay.
we've got I know we can talk about cortisol more. I bet you could do a whole 2 hours on ways, strategies for creating a balance in cortisol. But you have such experience around helping women to balance thyroid and helping women with autoimmune and helping women with their hormones. So we have an abundance of topics that we can talk about, and
More roller coaster rides
more
with
roller coasters.
Ashley.
Yes, sounds great. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Kristen, for coming on the show. Listeners, please go to her website, livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. Use coupon code LTH. Get the acerola cherry powder. Get a jug of magnesium soak. One jug is going to give you 30 days. It comes with instructions on how to use it, but you can go to listen to episode 294 for the full rundown, and children can do it. It's safe for children, safe for adults. And just to give us an idea though, with the acerola cherry powder, does it tell us how to take it? Like how many scoops a day?
It gives a very basic guideline,
Okay,
a teaspoon a day. But some people are going to need a half a teaspoon 3 times during the day if their body's not holding it because of their adrenals. So really be willing to play with that.
got
We
it.
have to put the standard thing on the back to fulfill the requirement, but that doesn't take into account your body, your journey, your way. Like
Got
that's my
it.
motto. And
Nice.
so really be willing to play with that. And some people will get some stomach cramping from it, and it's parasites. And so just
Mm,
my philosophy is low and slow. See how your body handles it, see what happens, and then build. But it's amazing. That T4 T3 connection for thyroid that it provides is probably my number one favorite thing, and the ability to relieve bodies of parasites is my number two.
okay, I can't wait to try it. I am super stoked. I'm definitely going to be trying it and letting the listeners in the Facebook group, Learn Trail Facebook group, know my experiences as we will all continue to share with each other. Please, listeners, join the Facebook group and share your experience as you implement everything you learned from Kristen today. And let's learn from each other. And if you have questions, please bring them up in the Facebook group and we can discuss them. And you can also submit questions to Kristen's team. What's the best way for people to reach your team should they have questions?
On the website, we have is it called an email contact form? An
Mm-hmm.
email. And so they can go right to the website, livingthegoodlifenaturally.com, and submit it that way. And because it's answered by a team member and sometimes myself, just depending on where it's at, our goal is to always have those returned within 24 hours.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
And remember about that gift. My love language
yes.
is gifts, and I'm super excited that during that 2 week period of time, that the magnesium muscle cream, one per order when you buy a magnesium jug.
Great. So you buy a magnesium jug on livingthegoodlifenaturally.com using coupon code LTH. And for the next 2 weeks, every listener on each order will get a jar of your wonderful muscle magnesium cream. Thank you so much. That's so
Oh, you're so
generous of
welcome.
you.
We're excited about that one. And a huge shout out to my oldest daughter, Megan, who manages the warehouse,
Thank you,
because
Megan.
she is the one who pulled that off. And it was pretty miraculous that she pulled that off. So, hooray!
Yay! Awesome. Well, thanks, Megan. And definitely big shout out to your whole family. You guys are wonderful. Can't wait to have you back on the show. You got to get back on my schedule
Great,
because I want
great.
to have you back. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you. Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks, Ashley. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Hello, true health seeker. Have you ever thought about becoming a health coach? Do you love learning about nutrition and how we can shift our lifestyle and our diet so that we can gain optimal health and happiness and longevity? Do you love helping your friends and family to solve their health problems and to figure out what they can do to eat healthier? Are you interested in becoming someone who can grow their own business, support people in their success? Do you love helping people? You might be the perfect candidate to become a health coach. I highly recommend checking out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I just spent the last year in their health coaching certification program, and it really blew me away. It was so amazing. I learned over 100 dietary theories. I learned all about nutrition, but from a standpoint of how we can help people to shift their life and shift their lifestyle to gain true holistic health. I definitely recommend you check them out. You can Google Institute for Integrative Nutrition or IIN and give them a call, or you can go to learntruehealth.com/coach and you can receive a free module of their training to check it out and see if it's something that you'd be interested in. Be sure to mention my name, Ashley James, in the Learn True Health podcast, because I made a deal with them that they will give you the best price possible. I highly recommend checking it out. It really changed my life to be in their program, and I'm such a big advocate that I wanted to spread this information. We need more health coaches. In fact, health coaching is the largest growing career right now in the health field. So many health coaches are getting in and helping people because you can work in chiropractic offices, doctors' offices, you can work in hospitals, you can work online through Skype and help people around the world. You can become an author, you can go into the school system and help your local schools shift their programs to help children be healthier. You can go into senior centers and help them to shift their diet and lifestyle to best support them in their success and their health goals. There's so many different available options for you when you become a certified health coach. So check out IIN, check out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, mention my name, get the best deal. Give them a call and they'll give you lots of free information and help you to see if this is the right move for you. Classes are starting soon. The next round of classes are starting at the end of the month. So you're going to want to call them now and check it out. And if you know anyone in your life who would be an amazing coach, please tell them about it. Being a health coach is so rewarding and you get to help so many people.